Welcome to the Higher Self Habits podcast, where astrology meets behavioral psychology. Join me, your host, Angela Xavier, and together let's dive into all things astrology, how to align your mindset with your birth chart, and so much more. My intention with this podcast is to inspire you with strategies, tools, and teachings that you need to consistently get after your goals with flow and ease. Your higher self is already doing so. And after all, you are what you repeatedly do. I am so happy to have you here with me, so thank you so much for being here. Now let's begin. Welcome back to another episode of the Higher Self Habits podcast. I'm excited to release another one of the Embodying the Sun Sign series. And in this episode, we're featuring my friend Tricia Fishbune, who will be our Virgo. As a Virgo hypnotherapist and subconscious mind expert, Tricia helps others release and change subconscious limiting beliefs and programming to help them live a more authentic and aligned life. Back in 2018, Tricia left her previous career as a sports reporter. Through her healing journey, she stumbled upon hypnotherapy and became certified in 2020 after seeing such a profound shift in her life and her internal world. Since then, she's worked virtually with clients from all over the world, myself included, and currently puts on events for people in Phoenix, Arizona. By tapping into the power of the subconscious mind, she's able to experience deep emotional and spiritual healing, which has led to so many manifestations while helping others access the same. Without further ado, let's dive into the episode. Hello, Tricia, and welcome to the Higher Self Habits podcast. I am so happy to have you here. So how are you today? And thanks again for being on.
Oh, I'm so honored to be on. I'm always so happy whenever I get a chance to talk to you. But I'm doing great today. Thanks for asking.
Oh, that's great. So as you can see by the title, Tricia here is our Virgo, and she's got a lot to serve when it comes to Virgo vibes. So I can't wait to get into it. And for all you Virgos listening, this is some juicy content we're going to get into, because I know a lot of Virgos, and this is what we've talked about before too, where they don't really like resonate so much with being like the Monica, you know what I mean, of the zodiac, the super organized and like perfectionist. And you've shared with me that those weren't traits that you really resonated with, and learning more of the innuendo, is that the word, of Virgo energy has allowed you to see yourself more clearly in the sign.
It totally has. Like being able to have a broader vision of this archetype and seeing how my uniqueness of Virgo expresses itself has helped me so much. And even some of the qualities, like the super organized and the perfectionistic qualities of Virgo, they don't express necessarily outwardly, but internally, like in my mind, I definitely resonate and notice that as well. So I'm sure that other people listening can resonate with that.
Yeah, for sure. The conscious lens, right? And that's what I feel too is really important to remember, is we're not just our sun sign. Like there's so much more to our charts. Yes, it is representing 98% of the solar system and has that big juicy ego that likes to tell us that it's everything, but still there are nuances to it. So I'm happy you brought that up. That's great. So starting off, I want to ask you, Tricia, what makes you your higher self?
Oh, so what makes me my higher self? I've been working a ton on this, and we'll go into probably more of my journey later on. But within this past year, I went through a breakup, and that breakup really allowed me to ground into my authenticity. And the more that I've explored who I am at a soul level and what my soul craves, and the more that I express that outwardly, that to me is this vision of my higher self. So it's like it's a combination of my authenticity and also stripping away. I'm a hypnotherapist, so I do a lot of work with the subconscious and conditioning. So it's stripping away also all of the programming or conditioning that I've picked up over the years. And when I can do that, that is my higher self.
I love that. I love that you shared, since deepening in that practice
a lot has changed for you. And there's a study I found fascinating how the highest vibration is actually authenticity. And just from like knowing you even before the breakup and seeing just your presence evolve, like you are so magnetic. I find like just like the vibe you give, and like I tell you this all the time, but I find you hilarious, which is another Virgo trait. I will go to the grave saying Virgos are by far the funniest sign, because just like it's this humor that's like witty but like to the point, and like you just say it how it is. Like if you don't want your feelings hurt, don't like make yourself vulnerable around a Virgo kind of thing. So yeah, I just love that that authenticity really is showing. Like you're really walking the talk. Yeah.
And that has been something that I've really had to work through because subconsciously I've always had this belief that, like, I mean, I definitely leaned very much into people pleasing. And I had this subconscious belief that who I am authentically probably is not my most magnetic or higher self. Like I have to shift
Mm,
and change and really fit in to what other people want me to be, whether that's in a professional field. Okay, I have to be really professional, or if it's in a friend group, okay, I have to be really empathetic or the nice girl or whatever. And I do
mhm,
have all of those traits, but really when I'm conscious of what makes me me and fully expressive of that, then I can be a greater I basically just magnify those traits and release the judgment of other people. And that totally, to your point,
mm,
like I've noticed that people just gravitate towards me. And I also noticed that other people that aren't aligned then fall away. And that's totally okay. But like the people that I'm connecting with now, it blows my
mhm,
mind away because
mhm.
we're just perfect matches, you know?
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's awesome. And I think a big thing to note there is just like your perception of magnetism shifted. Like fitting
Hmm.
into a box to be attractive to the opportunity in front of you, and really it's like I don't give a fuck what you think. You know. And then
Yes.
that in turn is what really made you the most magnetic. That's
Yes.
awesome. That's great. Well, I would love to get into your history a little bit. If you want to talk about your education background, your previous career, and where that led you to becoming a hypnotherapist, and all the beautiful things since that have brought you to what you're up to today.
Yeah. So my journey to become a hypnotherapist, I totally would have never seen myself down this path. I grew up in a very, traditional family with, meaning that the only jobs that I thought were available were like doctor, teacher, things like that. So I never saw myself in this field. I went to school for journalism and had such a passion for sports. So I went into sports journalism, broadcast journalism, and worked there for about 3 years. And there were a lot of amazing things that came about it. You know, there was a part of me that, like, that authentic, part of me that was expressing herself in that way. However, I
Mhm,
noticed that the more that I went down that path, the more that I couldn't fully share those inspiring stories, which is why I really went into sports.
mhm,
And the more that I sort of had to dim myself to fit into this really perfect mold. And just after going down that path, just seeing how unaligned it was, then it was a total ego death. I decided to quit
mhm.
my job, move back in with my parents at age 26, I think it was. And
Scary.
yeah, and I tell people all the time that during that time when I moved back, the first thing that people ask you is always, oh, well, what do you do? And because I
Yeah.
didn't have a job at that time, it was such like internal work with that ego to be like, like I'm still worthy, even though that I don't have a job, even though that I don't have this identity that I found through a job.
Mm,
That was like just such a uh, opportunity for personal
mhm,
development. And that is what I really dove into. I knew that when I moved back home, in order to get a job anywhere else, whether I still continued in sports or whether I shifted and went into marketing or something completely different. I knew that I had to do some internal healing. So I really buckled down on that and did personal development. I read all the books and listened to the podcast, took courses. Like I went all in. And that's when I stumbled upon, it was totally random and totally by chance, I stumbled upon hypnotherapy. It just was one of those things where, you know, when you listen to a podcast and then the next one just cues up and it just blends into the other one. And this woman starts talking about hypnotherapy. And I'm like, that is so weird. I would never do that. And then she started talking more about the subconscious and how it's meditation with a goal. And that the speaker on the podcast was who I went to school for. Her name is Grace Smith, and she's amazing. And so that's like what really piqued my interest, because from a sports journalism standpoint and being in sports, I knew the power of visualization and the power of meditation. And again, like my Virgo mind is very logical. And I was like, oh, well, I know the science behind meditation and I know the science behind the subconscious mind. So now I can get behind this. I'm going to try just for a little bit this hypnotherapy thing. And I listened to recordings. I was really focusing at the time on self-worth. And I was listening to those recordings, and I mean, I wish that I like documented it, but I would say within a month, couple months, 3 months, I just noticed such a shift within myself that I was like, whoa, okay, I need to get certified in this. Like, I'd love to do that as a career. And so I eventually got certified. I started the program in 2018 and then graduated in 2020. And then I started my own business. I actually worked for the company, for Grace Smith's company, for a while, and then also like branched off and did my own thing. And that's where I'm at today. I do hypnotherapy. I put on events in Phoenix, Arizona, and I also what I love about the life that I've created is I also have other sources of income as well, which, being my authentic self, has opened up these doors to dog sit in the most luxurious places and to be a personal assistant to a really amazing family. So that's kind of what I've been up to recently. This past year too, like I mentioned before, I went through a breakup, which really also, you know, I would say back in 2018 when maybe it was 2018. I can't remember when I moved back in with my parents, but that was a major point of transformation and growth. But also, like, going through a breakup, totally a major point of transformation and growth. But it was different because I already had this really strong foundation, and the work that I have done within myself and the work that I do with clients really supported me through that time. So that now, a year later, a little bit over a year later, I just feel completely different. And I never thought that I would be able, like, if you talked to me a year previously, I would have been like, I can never get over this. You know, whatever. But it just, so much has shifted and changed. So I'm so grateful for that.
That's beautiful. That's awesome. I also feel like if you're listening or ever in the market for personal assistant, like, shop for a Virgo. It's like the best sign to have for that. Another thing too, like, just seeing your journey unfold, and you share a lot like about your dog sitting services, and just seeing you pick up more and more clients. And I remember, like, I don't even know how many months ago this was now, you were sharing this concept of how manifestation and putting yourself in the actual environments and the actual experiences that you want more of. And you're just like, I'm dog sitting in these beautiful mansions and like staying in their house, you know, like testing it out and putting it on for size to like just live in the manifestation. And I just love that concept, how it's so useful to be resourceful with what like your alternative income is, but like simultaneously be manifesting. Like there's just so much opportunity out there that I get from you from a very like practical lens. Yeah.
There is. And with the dog sitting too, and tying it back to manifestation, it's really helped me detach from the outcome. Like dog sitting
Mm.
is totally this like fun thing that I'll do on the side. So not
I
only
love
does it
dogs.
get me,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Not only does it get me in these really luxurious houses, and then I can, be in those environments, and that helps me manifest more of that.
Mhm.
But it's also like it was totally for fun. And when I was in the past, when I was manifesting for my business, I was so attached to the outcome. So I couldn't
Mm.
like fully grasp the concepts of manifestation, but seeing it unfold through dog sitting, personal assistant work, through other areas of my life,
Multiple streams. Yeah.
oh my gosh, this is how manifestation works. And then I can apply that to my business. And it's, yeah, like that's it.
Ah, that's so awesome. It just feels so like genuine from you. Like it just the like I just feel it, you know? I don't know how else to
Yeah.
explain it. As a Cancer sun, I'm like, I feel the energy you're giving off. So, what so far, Tricia, has been most rewarding, or in other words, through this has felt like embodying your higher self?
The most rewarding to me has been, well, this past weekend, I was a part of this big event. And, a year previously, I felt this soul calling to really put on events in Phoenix. I moved to Arizona during the pandemic. It was actually right as the pandemic hit. So there was like, I
Oh,
was already
wow.
locked in. And so there was no like backing out of it or anything like that. And I was like, okay, well, I guess I'm in Arizona during a pandemic. And for me, again, going back to this authenticity piece, it it's so a part of who I am to have a community and to connect with other people. And yes, online you can absolutely do that, and that's so incredible, and what a privilege that we're able to do that. But there was a part of my soul that was like, like I really want to find my community in Phoenix and like really be in this space.
Mhm.
But I was so scared to do that. So I didn't do that. I didn't do it for the longest time. Um, but through doing the work and like through really subconsciously working through those fears and reinforcing a new narrative as I was navigating this devastating breakup, I was able to like take more action to then begin hosting events in Phoenix. And then I was approached by this company who coincidentally I had been going to their events previously, and I've always been inspired by them. And I'm always like, oh, I wish that I could collaborate with them. But I never, reached out to them. They reached out to me and they asked me if I wanted to be a part of their events, doing
Wow.
meditations for these big groups of people. So this past weekend, I did a meditation and health space for probably about 500 people, which is like insane to me because I had on my list before of like goals that I had. Okay, if 20 people could come, like that would be earth shattering. Like I'd be so grateful. And now I'm up on stage, so feeling it into my higher self and being able to hold space for 500 people. And then it's, that back to your point and back to your question, it's so rewarding for people then to come up and just share their experiences and how it's helped them, and I guess how I can be of service is
Yeah.
to tie back to Virgo.
I'm like snapping all these. I'm like, yep, yep, yep. That's beautiful. Oh, like yeah, I'm in awe of you. The whole concept too of like being so connected to community is such a Virgo concept as well. Cause I mean, the 11th house in astrology and community is really tied to Aquarius energy, but it's more so in like the projection of how to innovate, how to make it better for people. Where Virgo's like on the ground, Virgo's the one dishing out the food and like making sure everybody's good with a hands-on approach. Because being ruled by Mercury, the planet that rules all of the experiences of the mind, has everything to do with communication, connection, right? And when you tie in the like earthiness to it, it's like, okay, well, communicating with each other, what's the benefit? What's the purpose? What do we do with this connection? So just hearing you like going down this like path and expressing like your higher self more readily, it's like, yeah, Virgo is out to shine right now. And I love that.
That's so cool. And it just happens naturally. But it's happened naturally as I like really figure out what makes me me. But it's also
Mm,
been so helpful to have a reading, you know, like with you, with other
mm,
astrologers that give you sort of like these this blueprint of, okay, this is
mm.
who you are, and how does this show up for you?
Totally, totally. And I think too, what comes to mind when you said that is tools like hypnotherapy and meditation and taking self-development seriously. There's this like preconceived idea that it's to change who you are, when
Hmm.
really it's to remember who you are. It's to change who you don't want to be into who you actually are, right? So, like, astrology is just another lens for you to dive into that in a different way, to see a more broad perspective and like take it from there. Yeah,
Hmm.
that's how I see it. Yeah. So I'm interested now if that's how you embody your higher self, how do you then define embody?
Hmm. So embody to me is alignment.
Mm,
So that is like alignment of both your mind and your body. And basically, yeah, I mean, I think it's like also alignment in the words that you speak and your actions that you take. So when you're fully embodied in whatever quality it is or whatever identity it is, or, you know, if you're fully embodied in your higher self, then your actions line up with the words that you're saying, with the thoughts that you're thinking. It's also you're embodied in it. What I've also worked on this past year is moving from my logical mind and like just living from my mind to dropping into my body and opening up my heart and also living from there. So it's not just discarding the mind and saying, oh, like, I'm not going to believe any of the thoughts that I think, or oh, it's out to get me or whatever. And it's not just discarding the body and saying, oh, it holds so much trauma and I'm not going to listen to my body, and who can listen to their heart. It's being so in alignment with both of them and taking the wisdom from both. So that to me is embodiment. I know it's a little bit, I don't know if I like gave a
oh,
concrete
no, I'm with you there. Yeah.
explanation.
Yeah,
Okay.
for sure. Peeling off that a little bit, I'm curious what your perspective is between the relationship with your subconscious mind and your body. Because you talk about like dropping into it. Is it a similar thing in your practice?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that there's such a unique connection between our body and our subconscious. And a lot of times our body expresses certain things like that maybe our subconscious holds, and maybe vice
Mm,
versa too. So an example of this is if you have a belief of something like I'm not worthy of health, or it can be like something totally not connected to health, it can then begin to express in the body. Same thing, if anyone has read The Body Keeps the Score, there's so many other things where our body holds on epigenetically to trauma and to belief systems that our ancestors held. So it's
oh
passed.
my God.
Yeah. So
Blows
I
my mind.
totally believe like the connection between the subconscious mind and the body. And when you can listen to the clues that the body's giving, when you can drop down, like quiet into that state of relaxation, it's called the theta brainwave state, which is totally natural. And that's a state of hypnosis. Then you can access your subconscious mind and just get really curious of like, what is it that I believe? Or what is it that my body's trying to tell me? What is it that my soul's trying to tell me? What is it that my higher
Mm,
self's trying to tell me? That's when we can gather all the answers because we're really intuitive in that state of hypnosis.
That's so cool. And it's through your body, like the actual action of relaxation is the precursor to it. That's fascinating. This
Yeah.
is kind of a random story, but tying in with the unconscious or subconscious and the body. I read somewhere recently that um, when you are sick, it can be triggered from a need for attention. And my
Mhm.
husband, okay, whenever he's on the upswing, when he's a Scorpio, he's really intense. He's like a black or white kind of guy, all or nothing. So when he's been in the past, and I've noticed this pattern, when he's gone all in on something, he gets sick, like ill. And I was reading that as a kid, there's this need for attention, and the only time the child would get the attention, the like overload attention from their mom, was when they were sick. And I told him this, and his face, he was just like, whoa, like, and I'm like, it's a thing. Like, that just blows my mind. I was just had to share that.
It is a thing. And yes, and I've worked with clients on that. That's also Eckhart Tolle talks about that in A New Earth.
Mm. Oh,
Um,
okay.
it's so fascinating. But also like that is why some children um act out as well, because acting out, maybe they're not getting the positive attention, but they're at least getting this really directed attention from their parents that they've
Mm.
never been able to get before. Or it can also manifest in a way of, well, the only way that I get attention is if I have straight A's and succeed and overachieve. So then that
Mm.
child might develop these subconscious beliefs or actions or habits of, I need to be this
Burnout.
perfection. Yeah, exactly.
Damn.
Yeah.
I'm forever fascinated by it. It's
Yes.
so cool. So, talking about Virgo again, what are your favorite traits about Virgo that you resonate with the most?
Mm. So you've helped me to really, again, like I think I grew
Mhm.
up thinking the archetype of Virgo was, well, isn't it called like Virgo the Virgin? And I'm like, how
Yes.
boring is that? And I'm just not organized. I'm not, like that is just so boring to me. But you really helped reframe it into like this goddess energy. And that's one of my favorite qualities of like this goddess energy, but also very grounded and earthy. I'm so connected to the earth and I love nature,
Mhm.
love being out in nature. Um, and also just when I think of that goddess energy, it's like this balance between masculine and feminine. Even though that Virgo, I believe, is a feminine sign, but to me, I don't know. It feels like this flow of the masculine and feminine, like that balance. And then another way that I see Virgo present in me, and one of my favorite qualities is I'm obsessed with health and wellness. And it's been so natural to me that I can't even see that it's one of like that it's something that makes me me until other people are, oh my gosh, I love when you share about that. And I'm like, wait, doesn't everyone drink lemon water or doesn't everyone know these sleep hacks? I could read about it for hours. So I love that. And then we also talked about service and you brought up the point of community. I didn't know that about Virgos, but that is also one of my favorite qualities.
Yeah, that's so cool. I remember you saying that how your friends or whatever would just be like, "Oh, like how, you know all this information." You're like, "What do you mean? You don't know this already?"
Yeah.
Like this isn't just the norm that everyone's obsessed and fully aware of their health. That's so cool. No, that's really cool. And that's something too I find fascinating, especially in charts, is that it's almost like this there's so much talent there. It's too easy that like the conscious awareness gets kind of lazy because it's just so natural to you that it's like, oh yeah, I do that. It's like, no, but like no one else is this way, you know? Like, you are special. So I like to be
Yes.
reminded by that for sure. The other
Yeah.
thing too, the goddess energy is just it's such a powerful sign, Virgo. Like, I love Virgo energy so much. And speaking to Virgos who start off with the idea of it the way you did, I'm just like, Beyonce is a Virgo, right? Like,
Yeah.
is that enough to say that woman is a powerhouse, right? And the virgin, it is like a boring animal. Like, there's scorpions, in the zodiac. There's a lion, and I'm a virgin. Like, cool. Like, I get it.
Yes.
But the originators of the zodiac saw the virgin as a very sacred symbol because the virgin represents that goddess. And what's so beautiful about the goddess is she's perfectly balanced with masculine and feminine in herself, that she doesn't need a man. Like that divine masculine energy is already being fed within herself. And how that expresses with your sun sign being your conscious lens is, again, coming back to the ruling planet Mercury. Mercury is the planet that rules the mind, and it's the mind that brings in that masculine quality to Virgo, the analytical, the organized, the logical, rational side of you. But you're still that earth sign, right? You're still Mother Earth's energy, which is the feminine, the absorbent of the energy. Like, when I try to explain the feminine aspect of earth being very receptive and feminine, I just like imagine a black tarmac on a summer day and how hot it gets. And it just absorbs all that energy. And then in itself is like as hot as the sun. You could fry an egg on it some days. So it's that like grounded, absorbing energy with the power of that analytical lens on how to be a part of what's surrounding the virgin, which is how you be of service. The best thing to do at the right times. It's like the one you call for an emergency, the one who knows all the little things that you love and appreciate because they have figured it out on their own without you even having to tell them. That's how I see Virgos. I just loved that when you brought that up. I'm like, I gotta dive into that goddess explanation.
And I love that you did, because every time that you speak about Virgo, I feel like it makes me fall more in love with myself every day.
Yes, I love it. As you should. Okay. Your story the other night was so funny after your soccer. I'm just like, this girl needs like her own TV show. So I play soccer every week and I scored. How many goals did you score again?
3.
I scored 3 goals, and you're just so nonchalant about it getting in your car. You're like, why isn't no one in love with me? Like, what do you mean? I'm so easy to be in love with. What's happening?
And I'm so glad that you understand my humor.
I love it. It's so good. Oh. So, what about these traits of Virgo that you listed, being the goddess energy, the service forward? What do you think those have made a difference for you in being successful in where you're at and everything you've manifested in your life so far?
I feel like, well, this is totally not like like when I think of a Virgo, I think almost like very like logical, very cause and effect. And I feel like my answer is not very cause and effect with all of these things. It's like when these qualities have helped me become more me, which then helps me show up and attract the experiences and things that I want, but then also serve from a more like grounded and full and whole place. But it's like if you were to talk to me before maybe my personal development journey, I would be like, but how does being a goddess like actually help you in your business? Or how does being grounded or being of service, like I don't understand. It's not like logical or cause and effect, but it is like once you once you really embody, I mean, going back to that embodiment piece, like once you embody these qualities, that is just how I found success, I guess.
I love that. What comes to mind when you saying that is like, again, just seeing astrology as a lens, right? You're cause and affecting whether you're aware of it or not. why don't you try it this way for a second, or look at it this way for a second, like a goddess? And that in itself is enough. Just even thinking about it once, it makes that trickle effect start to happen and see things a little differently. And I just saw too, is it's like, you are Tricia, you're not Virgo at the end of the day, right?
Mhm.
We don't belong to astrology. It's again just like this lens, or what came to mind when you were explaining that was the word conduit. Like it's the cord that plugs into what you want, but you're still the one doing the plugging, right? And it just allows this space for you to again just see things differently, which is where magic happens. That's the way I interpreted that.
Mhm. And this year, when I've seen the most shifts is when I allow myself to experiment. And
Mm,
it, we talked a little bit about like the perfectionistic tendencies of Virgo. I very much, growing up, like very much was in that space, especially in my mind, but it would also show up in other areas as well. But when I allowed myself just for fun, like, let's just experiment, let's just
mhm,
try this on, let's just see how this goes. Do I like this? Do I not like this? How do I feel in my body? It releases that pressure. And then that has been like such a lesson for me to release the pressure. That is when I'm so magnetic. When
mm,
I place that pressure on myself, I almost like close myself off to these opportunities.
yeah.
Um, yeah, so it's experimenting has been huge.
And I find too, like the root of perfectionism is the fear of failure, right?
Mhm.
So an experiment is like, failure isn't the end all be all. It's just simply an answer of, what to try next. So where is there anything specific in your journey of easing that pressure that comes up as like an example of how you're able to do that?
Hmm. Can you ask that question again?
So for you in your journey of releasing the pressure of being the perfectionist type and now more into the experimenting, was there anything specific that you were implementing that allowed you to ease the pressure that way?
Yeah. So this really ties back to the work that I do and the work that I'm really passionate about is and these perfectionistic tendencies really root down to subconscious beliefs. So you mentioned fear of failure. And then there's also, like, oh, well, I'm only worthy if I execute perfectly, or I'm only accepted if I'm perfect. And subconsciously, we all have this very prehistoric clan mentality. And what that means is for survival, we had to fit in with the clan. Otherwise, if we were just on our own, we would have to do all the hunting, we would have to do all the protecting and defending and everything. And you would be a really easy target if you're the one on your own. So we've all subconsciously developed this clan mentality where we want to fit in with other people. And a lot of times when we have this perfectionistic quality come up, it's because we're afraid that if we fail or if we don't do it perfectly, then the clan or other people are going to judge
Mhm.
us or turn against us. And that can feel really unsafe. So what I have done to help with that is, through hypnotherapy, doing inner child work for sure, because a lot of this perfectionism stemmed from when I was younger. Like, I mean, even just the way that our school systems are set up, it's in this very like, okay, well, you have to achieve this and you have to do it perfectly, otherwise you're gonna dock points. And so it can kind of reinforce these perfectionistic qualities and tendencies and beliefs. um, so it's a lot of inner child work where, I have been in my mind's eye, like going back to that inner child and sort of reteaching her and reframing these ideas of like, what, like failure is not the end of the world. Actually, failure is, it teaches you so much and there's so much opportunity. And the most successful people fail all the time. And look, failure can be fun. It's like reteaching and giving a reframe to failure or to whatever it is that you're working on, and so you can also reinforce too that little inner child of yours, like you're still worthy even if you fail. Look how loved you are by other people. And even if that wasn't necessarily true as a child, what's so powerful about hypnotherapy and about visualization is that you can just create this new narrative in your mind. And so instead of then basically how your subconscious works is it's pulling from past experiences, right? So if you failed and then there was a really horrible consequence, your subconscious is going to pull from that experience to then color future experiences to then prevent that from happening again. So you're going to be like really hyper vigilant and like not want to fail at all, which makes total sense. So we can have compassion with ourselves. But instead of then pulling from that experience, which is not serving us, how can we then create a new experience in our subconscious that our subconscious then can pull from to then color our future experiences so that we can see, experimenting is fun. Ooh, failure is not the end of the world. Ooh, I'm still safe. I'm still worthy, even if I do fail. And failure leads to success. So it's like that has been just such a game changer for me. And the beautiful part is anyone can do hypnosis, whether you're with a guide or you can totally do it on your own too.
Wow, that's so powerful. I love the way you explain it. It's so easy to understand, honestly. And it's like, it's, it's accessible. Like it just feels possible, when you hear, because I know a lot of people, especially if Virgos are listening, like perfectionism is a real thing that comes up in a lot of ways in people's lives. So to hear just like a surefire black and white solution for it that can be extremely unique to you, like it's amazing. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's a wrap on all the questions I have for you, Tricia. From here, how can people connect with you deeper or catch up on what you've been up to lately?
Yeah. Oh, well, I so appreciate you for having me on and then for asking. So the best way that people can connect with me is on Instagram. My Instagram is at Tricia Fishbune. And then I also offer one-on-one sessions. I also do virtual experiences, particular to certain topics. So again, the best way is just to go on Instagram and you'll see all the events that I put on. And then I also just created this new experience, which me and you have chatted about, where I create custom recordings for people, which will hop on a call together. We'll come up with a goal that you really want to shift or transform, or it could be a habit, or for any Virgos listening, if you really resonated with that perfectionistic piece, it could be a whole recording on overcoming that fear of failure or releasing the judgment of others or anything like that. And then I'll create a hypnosis recording that you can listen to anywhere. And then you're literally reprogramming your subconscious mind as you do it. So it's so effortless and flowy, but so powerful.
It's so dope. I can't wait to dive into that with you. I'm so excited. Great. Well, thank you again so much, Tricia, to have you on. It's been such a pleasure. And I can't wait to connect with you again. Hopefully, we'll do another episode or something sometime, get more deeper into the unconscious, subconscious.
I love that. Thank you so much.